The Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast is proudly sponsored by New Vision.
My team, kinda power. I love the power. I love the power.
Hi guys, and welcome to the Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast, a weekly show about all things Port Adelaide Footy Club. I'm your host, Macca19, and joining me, as always, co-host Fishing Rick 04. How are you, buddy?
Oh, very good, Macca. Very excited. Got a great guest back on tonight, and we actually learnt something from her during the week that we couldn't actually, shouldn't be playing the music that we do from a copyright perspective. So
yes.
I thought maybe we'd have to make our own, Macca. So I thought we could start singing.
All right, let's do it.
So seeing Portia's on, I thought we could sing "Love Me Tender, Love Me True, All I Need Is You." Eddie wanted me to sing that one. Or
awesome.
we got Kane Mitchell come back into the side, so we could do "Speed is What I Need, Grease Lightning." There you go. Thank you very much.
I honestly don't know how to respond to this.
I do.
You've made me speechless.
You actually have to pay for songs that you sing as well, not just steal the performance of. So you're still in trouble, Rick, I'm afraid. Sorry.
Probably didn't get the lyrics right anyway, so I'm sure I didn't breach the copyright there.
True.
Oh, that's all right then.
You did well, Rick. You did very well.
Yeah, no one would possibly think that was an actual song.
No, definitely not.
Thank you very much.
As you can tell, we've got the lovely Portia back on this week.
Hello. I'm well. Yeah,
That's the
good
way.
week. It's a great week. It's always a good week.
It is. That's right.
It always is a good week when you're coming up against Freo.
Oh, I love coming up against Freo. It's the best.
It's one of those games that you just notch down in the diary, isn't it? We're playing Freo, beauty.
Who's going to get suspended?
Oh, that's it. Well, look, the last time we spoke, Portia, was after the North Melbourne game. How have you seen our form since then?
Look, I think that we've done what we needed to. The North Melbourne game, I think we were all making the comment that, this felt like a 8-goal loss and, we hardly lost by anything at all. And I think that the games since then have just shown that we've had a similar sort of feeling in a lot of games. So, Greater Western Sydney, we won. It felt like it was a very disappointing, almost lost, but we actually still did okay in the end with Cyrus scoreline. So I think that, you take an average year, but then you add every game about 5 or 10% in terms of relative scoring, and I think that's the sort of season we're having. We're having our ups and downs, but overall our average is just high enough to have us right at the top of the ladder, which is fantastic, and I think that's realistically what you want to see any year. You have to accept there's going to be some games that are going to be a bit ordinary and some games are going to be bloody amazing. But if you're winning them all, well, that's just gravy, isn't it? It's very good. So I think we're doing all right at the moment. But
I thought we were in Naughty Corner after that podcast. Lord Macca and me and you, we got told off by the guru of all gurus, Ford. He wasn't happy with our criticism of that game, and I felt all guilty afterwards and thought maybe we were too hard.
Oh, look, I've got the armour on. I've noticed that every time I do a podcast, I post something, mildly controversial in the forums, and I just get gunned down. So I'm ready for you all now this time. I know it's coming. It's good.
Bring it on. Now, Rick, you wanted to bring up the Jay Viney farce that's happened this week.
I think it is a bit of a farce, Macca. I mean, obviously, the stats are he was the second of 15 appeals to actually be upheld or ratified. So Jack's free to play. It's just been a schmozzle, the whole process. Obviously, a lot of experts and fans thought he was very unlucky to get suspended in the first place. I was sort of borderline on it because I could see a bit of consistency with the panel. I wasn't fussed really either way, but I can understand where the AFL's going and wanting to protect the head. But I just feel, this whole appeal process has just been to sort of appease the masses and to sort of reduce the backlash in the media that they were receiving, and sort of more of a PR stunt more than anything. What did you guys think?
Isn't appeals basically entirely to do with the media anyway? What was he charged with? I think it was rough conduct, wasn't it? Rough conduct is just an absolute farce. We've seen rough conduct apply to all sorts of really horrible things and totally insignificant things. So the appeals board, if it's not there to appease the media, I don't know why it even exists. Because if they had a rule system in place that had clear penalties and clear definitions of what was an offence, why would you need an appeals board? Unless it was something extremely controversial. So no, the appeals board's doing exactly what it should. It's clamping down media aggression. That's exactly what the AFL made it for.
Yep.
How could you break someone's jaw and it be deemed only medium impact? What would be severe impact?
I think we all know that with the tribunal scoring system, it's all done on, well, what suspension should we see? We should see 2 games. All right, well, what do we need to make it so that we get a 2-game outcome?
Exactly.
Simple as that. So to get the 2-game outcome, they had to charge it as medium impact, which it definitely wasn't. I mean, it was pretty severe. If a guy's missing 6 weeks with a broken jaw and you could see teeth fly out of his mouth, I mean, it's pretty severe impact, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. And I mean, that's what it should have been graded severe, and rightly or wrongly, it should have been a 4 to 6 week suspension. Yeah. And this is where, as supporters and in the media, we get so frustrated with the game because there hasn't been any consistency in the tribunal for as long as I can remember, and they keep trying to change it, but it still doesn't make it any better.
Well, why would there be consistency? I thought one of the things that's constant with the tribunal is that they don't accept prior cases as relevant to current decisions.
Exactly.
So you're not going to get consistency if you don't do that.
And why can't they accept precedents? That's what I don't understand. Why can't they go, well, this happened in another game. This is almost the identical incident. This person suffered or got exposed to that penalty or got let off. We should follow the same. I don't understand why precedence isn't accepted in the AFL tribunal.
The reason is because it's too politically sensitive to do. I mean, if you have someone like Buddy Franklin suspended for a grand final because of something he did in a prelim, that's horrible. They don't want that to happen. And precedent would cause that sort of thing to happen. So, no.
Yeah, so then it's open to basic corruption, isn't it?
Well, we are talking about the AFL, I think, aren't we? And this is one of the moments it's glad that we're not an official podcast here.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of official media outlets, however, that are still being very critical on the AFL and the system. So, I think anyone's entitled to their opinion on it, and it's as long as it's constructive. And it's farcical, and surely with the intelligence of what they've got in the organisation, they can get a correct system.
We got the power to win, power to roll, come on, for Adelaide aggression, we are the power from Portia.
Now let's go on to the reason behind this podcast. We're previewing the Fremantle game. It's Saturday afternoon at the wonderful Adelaide Oval. We've got a 14-12 win-loss record against Fremantle. Unfortunately, we've lost the last 6 against them, including a 74-point drubbing last time we played, late last year. I guess the first question, is this a bigger game than the Geelong match?
No.
Yes.
Oh! I love indecision. This is great. I reckon it is.
I'll make my case and you can make yours, Rick.
Sure.
Okay, I reckon it is because I think that in the case of Geelong, if they'd won, you'd say, Geelong have got a huge reputation. They've got a bunch of ageing stars. Yeah, absolutely. Geelong beats Port Adelaide. That's just considered regular thing. But Fremantle, they don't have the reputation, but they do have the recent form that if we can put them away, it's not just a matter of putting down an ageing giant. It's actually putting down a contemporary. And I think that's why it's a more important game for us to win in a lot of ways.
Spot on.
Yeah, that's my case. What's yours, Rick?
Oh, well, look, Geelong's been up there for the last 6 years. We haven't been able to beat them for that period of time. We got humiliated in the grand final. When we beat them a couple of weeks ago, it was really stamping our feet on the AFL system and saying we have officially changed from the last 5 years. Geelong were equal top with us at the time and appeared to be in fantastic form, and you could argue that they still are, really. They've only had the one hiccup. Whereas you could mount a case for Freo, inconsistent form, injuries to key defenders, which I'm sure will be discussed shortly. So I'd be looking at this game more as we should deserve to be favourites for this game, and we should win. Whereas with Geelong, we weren't favourites, and we had something to prove there. And as we said before we started the podcast, Portia, which you're exactly right, for us now, every game is becoming a big game. But to me, there was more emotional build-up and more for us to prove against beating Geelong than what I feel about us beating Freo this week. However, if we group Freo and Hawthorn together as a 2-game fixture, for me now that's the doozy of doozies of all fixtures, because if we can actually come up trumps in both of those games, well then that's a completely different story.
I agree that the emotion of the Geelong game was more significant, particularly consider the perception based around the fact that we're still hurting from that grand final in 2007. But I think that, a more of a head argument is that the Fremantle game is probably more important than the Geelong game, whereas the emotional argument, yes, certainly you're absolutely on the money that the Geelong was probably a bit more valuable. But I think that a neutral, that observing the two games will probably think the Fremantle one was a bit more important because it is a contemporary, because they do have a pretty good system, and we have seen this year multiple times that teams that really execute their game plan, they can really cause a lot of problems for us, and I think Fremantle's certainly one of those sides. So I think that for your heart, yeah, Geelong, but I think as far as head, I reckon Fremantle's a bigger test for us.
Yeah, but I think Hawthorn's also proven that their system this year isn't as effective. They're not as well-oiled this year. Geelong was still showing that they had a well-oiled system. They were in peak form. Freo aren't showing us that. And watching Hawthorn dismantle Freo, I looked back at that game and I got a lot of confidence that we can do the same, and Ken's smart enough as a coach to be able to implement those similar strategies to dismantle Freo. But I also saw from Hawthorn that I think there's an opportunity that we could be doing something there to Hawks as well, but that's for another week's discussion.
Oh, look, I reckon Geelong's probably about a year away from being weekend at Bernie's, isn't it? They're doing well, but they're just sort of going on automatic at the moment.
Well, hey, when they played us, they were undefeated, weren't they?
Yeah, I suppose. But
they were top of the ladder, undefeated, and they were the bee's knees of footy. They just knocked over Hawthorn, and Hawthorn's top of the tree. Everyone's saying that Hawthorn's plateau's above everybody else. They mounted a challenge against Geelong, and Geelong came back in the final quarter and did what they had to do. And, that's... Whereas for me, I guess I'm going over the same thing now. Freo was sort of spluttering this year. If it was last year, I'd agree completely with what you're saying.
Fair enough.
Good stuff.
But
I enjoyed that.
Well, what about you? Were very silent there, Macca. You seem to agree with Portia.
Oh, look, I'm just going to sit on the fence and say you're both right.
Oh,
you
thanks,
coward.
Macca. No, look, I actually do agree with both. I think that emotionally, the Geelong game had a lot more importance than what this one does. But I think right now, I think Freo's also a team. I think Ross Lyon's sort of strategy is you don't go for the wins early in the year. You sort of build up to the crescendo at the end of the year when it's final. So look, if they lose a couple of games early on in the season, it's not really going to derail their season too much. But I think this one's more important just simply because we're coming up a team that plays sort of final style footy, 100% of the year. And it's a style of footy that we've had a lot of issues with in the past. I think we've only beaten a Ross Lyons side maybe 3 or 4 times ever, I think. So he's certainly a coach that we struggle with as well. And I think there was a clear game plan in place for how we could actually beat Geelong. And I'm a bit worried that we're not going to have that this weekend against Freo.
I reckon that's fair.
Interesting.
Well, look, let's talk about teams, because there's a couple of interesting ones for both teams. We've got Bobby coming back in, which is fantastic. We've got Hamish coming in, which is fantastic. And we've got Kane Mitchell coming in for his first game of the season. Maybe a little bit of a controversial one. What do we feel about that?
Not a lot. I mean, Kane Mitchell, I think he will be an okay sub, and if he's playing as a sub, then I've got no problems with it. I think that he's part of that depth that I've criticised previously. I think that they're okay, but, it'd be nice to have someone better coming in. But for what we've got, Mitchell's going to be fine, realistically.
Yep.
I don't think we dropped anyone better.
I'd imagine that he will be the sub. I think he's been picked exactly for that role, and you can see what Ken's going for here. I think he wants outside run, and he wants lots of it. And you got White in the side, you got Impey in the side, you got Broadbent on the side, you got Kane Mitchell in the side. That's and then in addition to your normal midfield runners, but all of those guys are very fast, and they're going to be providing us a lot of outside run, which is going to be one of the keys for this game.
That's it. Look, he's been in lightning form in the SANFL. He's definitely deserved his chance this week. As we said in the review podcast last week, he's playing a bit of a different role this year. He's playing a bit more inside, but look, with his fitness, I definitely think he could be a fantastic sub. Well, look, Tommy Jonas comes out of the side with the groin. That's a massive disappointment there. He's been in fantastic form all year, but we've also dropped Paul Sturt and Ben Newton as well.
Yeah, I know that Jonas out made my initial query a lot more difficult. I'm not sure who's going to get suspended now. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Impey will step up and fill his shoes. But apart from that, I think that Newton out, I think that's much of a muchness in a lot of ways. And Sturt, I don't know. I think this will be his last year on the list unless he pulls something out of the bag, won't it? So I don't think we're going to lose a lot.
He was pretty unlucky. I thought he had a very good game last week. You could mount a strong case for actually keeping him in the side, considering Jonas is actually dropping out. I thought Dom was probably a little bit lucky to hold his place inside.
Yeah.
I guess they're probably looking at his solid frame inside game against Freo. But yeah, I thought Dom was pretty lucky, and Paul Sturt was exceptionally unlucky.
Yeah, well, look, if you look at the ins, Carlisle, Hartlett, Mitchell, Mitchell, if they're bringing him in to be the sub, then you wouldn't have Stewart as a sub, would you? So.
No, but I'd probably have, Paul Stewart in Cassisi's spot on the half-forward flank as a defensive half-forward with the ability to go back and play a third or fourth tall up if we need to.
No, I'd rather have Cassisi on Pierce, quite honestly.
Yeah.
I don't think Dom will spend a single minute on Daniel, to be honest.
Really? No. Oh, that's a shame. Look, I still remember young Dom Cassisi and how when he played in that half-forward role, he'd just burn him going the other way. And I think that Daniel Pearce is certainly someone that you can expose going forward. I certainly wouldn't mind that matchup, even if they didn't necessarily play directly next to each other the whole time. I think that.
Well, you're on the money there.
I think Dom's got the experience and the talent and the past experience of actually punishing Daniel for not being defensive enough. So I'd be pretty keen for that matchup personally. Technical thing, but.
Yeah. Well, look, both Daniel Pearce and Stephen Hill are the number 1 and 2 players in the AFL in terms of average inside 50s per game. So they're both two players that we desperately need to stop. I think they've probably got the best midfield, or certainly the most diverse midfield in the league, Fremantle. I think they've got those two super quick guys. They're surrounded by fantastic ball winners in Nat Fyfe, David Mundy and Michael Barlow. I don't think you can get three midfielders as good as them in the league. They're surrounded by fantastic second stringers like Crowley, who always does a fantastic job. Guys like Lockie Neal have popped up. Cameron Sutcliffe, he's had a pretty good start to his career as well. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a bloody tough game to win this one.
I've got to say the main thing that I'm worried about, is particularly with Jonas out, is you look at the midfield depth that you just mentioned, and also the fact that a lot of them can play forward. And I just don't know that we've got the smaller medium defenders to really control it. I don't know. I'm a bit worried that we might not have the matchups.
I'm confident. I think we do. Look, Freo's scoring power hasn't been that overwhelming this year. I think their game plan has been a little bit dysfunctional. From the games that I've seen, or the parts of the games, it seems like Ross has been trying to try and get a little bit more of an attacking game style into their game plan at times, and I don't know if it's worked. So they seem to be having an ability to leak more goals against them compared to, say, last year. And I think with our game, where we can run and spread, I think we can take it really to them. they weren't overwhelming in their victory against West Coast either. So it's going to really come down to our ability to extract the ball from the contest. I think that's going to be the key. And I mean, it's a repeat theme. You could say that nearly every week. But if we can extract the ball from the contest, and I think this is where you and Macca are right, they've got great midfielders. And not only are they great midfielders, but they're big midfielders. Micah Barlow, Tendai Mzungu, the two, Nate Fife, they're all tall, influential midfielders, and that's where we've got to be accountable. We just can't let them roam free and sort of hit those players up, because that's where we'll get really exposed. But if we can control the ball for more than our fair share, get the ball on the outside to our runners, I'm quite confident that we can do it right.
So what you're really saying is we're putting it pretty much all on Matthew Lobby and Boak and Ebert, and if they don't win it, we've not got a lot of answers in defence.
And Ollie Wines.
And Ollie Wines, sorry.
Yeah, I'm putting a lot on Ollie Wines, Ebert, Boak, and look, Kasisi kept his spot, so I'm putting a lot on Kasisi. And yes, Lobby has to compete. You know, it's been mentioned a few times. It was brought up last week that Lobby does seem to have an inability to influence the game as much against those taller ruckmen. And I notice we've got Renouf on the emergency list as well. But and Lobby's coming into the season quite strongly, but he's going to have to really negate Aaron Sandlands, at least not allow Sandlands to dominate the ruck and hit the ball where he just wants to go.
Well, look, I mean, I'm not really too worried about Aaron Sandlands as a directing ruck, but I think it comes down to what we saw back in, 2002, I think it might have been, when we had matchups like Primus versus McKee. Now, McKee was a non-ruckman, but what he did every time was stop Primus from having an influential tap, and I know that basically that's what Sandlands is going to do to Lobby. So without first use from ruck, we've already said that they have an excellent midfield. You'd have to think we're on the back foot, and then hoping that we're going to win more than 50% of the contests from the centre clearances. I'm not sure that's enough for us. I'd really love to have a stronger lockdown defence than the ones that we've currently got, particularly with the fleet of smalls and mids. I think that as far as key positions, obviously we're fine there. Jackson's great, Alapati's great, but just those small forwards and small half forwards and the running midfielders that we're talking about, I think that with a neutral ruck situation, I think that they're probably a little bit better at the spread than we are, and I think that we are going to be hurt defensively in this game. I think that's going to be the biggest concern for me. Not our scoring, but stopping theirs.
Yeah, look, they get a lot of their goals from their midfielders as well. If you look at their top 10 list of goal kickers, spots number 3 through to 10 are all midfielders.
There you go. I'm going to just say right now, I reckon that Jasper Pittard's going to have a game that's going to have a lot of people screaming at him, because I think that this is the sort of game where he might get a little bit exposed. Not in terms of not being able to do things, but in terms of maybe not being as defensive as would be ideal, and probably being picked off a little bit. That's my guess. That's my prediction.
Who do we see him going to? Do we see him as the natural...
Steady on. It's just uncalled for.
Do we see him as the natural opponent to Ballantyne? Or do we think Impey will get that?
No.
I don't like Impey or Pittard, really, on Ballantyne. I think he's too much of a seasoned campaigner for that. I'd probably a Kasisi. I know you're keen for Kasisi on Pearce, but I'd say maybe a Kasisi on Ballantyne. You know, with that experience and the ability not to get flustered would probably be a better matchup for us.
Yeah, but Kasisi does get flustered. That's the problem.
Yeah, he does.
Does he?
Yeah. Well, look, the other one we haven't mentioned is Matty White. Is that an option, or is he too much of an offensive weapon now to put him in a lockdown role?
I think we've got a lot of offensive weapons in the side, and I think that certainly plays into what Rick was saying, but I just don't know about our defensive capabilities as far as lockdown accountability. I'm just not sure.
Well, you can't lock down everybody, though, can you?
No.
But it'd be nice to lock down 3 or 4 against this type, particularly as far as the small.
Well, what about Kane? Would Kane maybe go to a Hayden Ballantyne type? Is he really suited to going to one of their bigger midfielders? Would he maybe get exposed there? Is maybe his role to go to the small forward and maybe try and lock down the small forward and then run off and expose? Maybe he might be a good one for the Daniel Pearce role that you were talking about.
I think he might go to Pearce, to be honest.
Maybe, yeah.
I'm
play
not
that
sure
tight.
too many people on our forum would be overly happy with seeing Kane Cornes start on Daniel Pearce. I reckon a lot of people might think that Pearcey might tear him a new one, but I reckon he'd be the perfect match for him, to be honest.
Yeah,
Especially
I
if you
think
sit on him. I mean, Pearce is prone to sort of having some off days and getting a little bit flustered as well, so I reckon he'd be the perfect matchup.
Yeah, probably.
Well, he's experienced enough. I can't see Daniel tearing Kane a new one. That's for sure.
I guess the interesting thing is how the two game plans sort of match up. You look at how Freo set up forward, and they often clear out their entire 50, and they kick it to Pavlich a lot. I mean, he's taken more than 3 times the marks inside 50 than any other Freo player. So they do look for Pav a hell of a lot of the time. Is he someone that we might look at sort of double teaming, having someone like Broadbent drop in front of him?
Well, Pavlich.
Yeah.
Maybe. Look, I'd be happy to just put Trengove on Pavlich and just let him go at it all game. I reckon that would be enough.
Yep.
And I'd probably use Carlon on Clark perhaps.
Well, I mean, Matty Pavlich has probably been their most influential player against us over the last 5 games. So it's definitely, and I guess that's reflective of the scores and the performances we put up against Freo as well. But he looked in pretty good form last week, and it wasn't just his marking, but just his 1%ers and the smartness of his play in the forward 50, which was really impressive. And he's a champion player. And so you would think that Bobby Carlisle and Homsch, when he's got the opportunity, will probably be double teaming him to nullify his effect, because obviously he's going to be influencing the game at some stage.
Yep. Crowley on Boak, that seems a bit obvious.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, what do we do? Because, I mean, Travis has probably been down at times this year. I mean, he had that purple patch 2 games ago and the game before where he started racking up the disposals. But either side of that, he seems to be a bit down on the disposal count, and that might be a team role, plus being tagged. But do we just leave him in the midfield and just see how he goes against the tag of Crowley, or do we shuffle him around and try and get Crowley out of the midfield as well, and maybe put Travis onto the half-forward line?
Well, we know how good Trav can be as a half-forward flanker. I'd still like to see him start in the middle. He is our captain. Get him in the guts, see what he can do. Crowley kept him to just 18 touches last time and had 18 touches and a goal himself, so he does have very good form against him. But look, I mean, it might be one of those sort of things where if Travis is getting beaten by him, maybe you do throw him at full forward. And
Absolutely.
play him out of the square and see if you can sort of, maybe get a couple of goals out of him that way.
That's right. I'm not saying give up before you've even started. I mean, you got to give him a go in the beginning. But if Crowley does get on top, exactly right. That's what I mean. Do we shuffle him up forward and move Crowley out of the play as well, and see if Travis can maybe hunt a few goals, because the showdown last year was great on the half forward line.
Yep.
And he's done it plenty of times.
Yeah.
I kind of like the backup thing with someone like Travis Boak, is that if he finds he's getting shut down, then have him shut someone else down, and then what's Crowley got to do? If Travis Boak's up against someone like Stephen Hill or Barlow in midfield, and Boak's being shut down, why not just have him be as accountable as possible for Barlow, and then have Crowley try and be the one clearing? I think I'd much rather that, and see how he goes as far as picking that off, because he's not the most brilliant disposer of the ball. That would be how I'd rather see it treated. Keep Boak in midfield, because it might go his way, and it might go his way in patches. But if it's not going his way, if you're seeing Sandilands is getting the best of the ruck, then have him negate someone. Why not? He can do it. He's got the fitness, and that's a good way to be a leader as well. It's not necessarily being the one that always gets the ball, but being the one that shows what you do when you don't have it.
Exactly right. And Portia and Macca, I guess you guys are a bit questionable on this game, and Portia, you're worried about how we're going to, reduce their attack. But I guess from their perspective, the loss of McFarlane, which is a huge loss,
Absolutely.
and Dawson as well, they're 2 key defenders. That's going to, how much of an influence is that going to have in their defensive half and for us up forward?
Well, it really forces Michael Johnson to play a bit more of a shutdown role, which is not really his natural game, I don't think. And look,
Yeah, true.
I would hope that Schultz could kick a bit of a bag on Silvani, to be honest. I think they'll look at giving Silvani a lot of support, a lot of people sort of dropping in front. But, I mean, I'd really hope to see Schultz kick at least 3 or 4 goals if we can get a bit of a run on. A lot of it is going to come down to Westhoff this week because he's been down the last month. You know, he really needs to stand up and have a big game.
I think that they're going to do what you always do when you've got issues with the key backman, which is the best way to beat a key forward that's a permanent key forward is just to shut off their supply. So we're going to see that old trick of overloading the half-back line in the back of the square, and they've certainly got the players to do that. So I think that Schultz is going to have to take a lot of marks at the top of the goal square this week. I'm not sure if that's necessarily his forte.
All right, so let's theorise. They're gonna flood our half-back line to try and minimise.
I didn't say flood. Just that will be the focus of where they would defend to.
All right, so they're going to try and maybe congest it and focus on that area to reduce our scoring.
Yeah.
So for us as a team, then, what do we do? Are we going to run at those massive players or their structure? Are we going to try to attack it and go over it and through it? Or, what's our strategy going to be there as a team to try and overcome that?
That's the big question, isn't it?
With that sort of thing, you either beat it with speed, which reduces the effectiveness of the zone, or you kick over it, and that'd be someone like Hartlett, I guess, and probably Chad Wingard as your main people there. So as far as fitness, I don't know, maybe this is Jared Pollock's extra game where he can come out there and just burst through because every zone, and you'll know that that's definitely the case with Ross Lyon's side, they're based on mathematics, and it's based on how fast an average player can run, and that's just how dictates your groupings and how you spread out. So blunt speed, you can break a zone, but I think on this occasion we're probably just going to try and roost it over the top most of the time. It's a little bit easier, and just hope that Jay Schultz feels like leaping.
Well, I hope
we take a bit more of a possession style game plan against them this week because look, Freo's number one thing is that sort of intense pressure that they put on the ball carry. We saw last week against West Coast where West Coast did try to play a bit of a running game, and it just failed dismally, especially in the first half. Because you just don't have any time against Freo. You've always got someone on your hammer. Every time you look up, suddenly you've got 2 players in front of you. You're forced into a defensive handball, and it's never good doing that.
Yeah, and that's why I'm sort of also thinking the option we're going to go for is to go over the top, because as I said, it's a lot easier than running through. Running through, you've got to have real confidence in what you're doing. There's someone on the other side that you can get it off to. But if you're under pressure and you're in the forward side of the square, it's much easier to bomb long to Jay Shorts and hope you can do something. So maybe that's what we'll see a bit of.
I guess we've got to probably take the weather into account as well, because it might be a bit slippery out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, in that case, maybe instead of Jay Schultz in that spot, you hope for Justin Westhoff and see what he can pull off, because, I mean, that's his sort of dream game, isn't it? Things coming in high and then no one taking a mark and then he can do something ridiculous. I think that's really what he loves. So maybe this could be the return of Westhoff to form. That'd be really nice.
Well, hopefully, if that's the game plan they're going to play, hopefully we've got Westhoff playing a little bit deeper. And I wonder if they were tempted with looking at another tall forward for this game, for that reason as well, if we're going to try and go over the top. But if it is run that we're looking for, and we're going to try and run at it from behind, I'm quite comfortable we have the runners to do that. You know, you've got Pittard, Impey, Pollock, Matt White, Kane Mitchell. We've got some good runners there. And I hope we blend it up. And I wouldn't compare us and West Coast too much, Macca. We're poles apart this season compared to previous seasons. So, we've shown that we can run at those type of game structures and do it quite well. And I think the other interesting stat for us this year is our ability to, compared to previous years, is to stop the run of goals against us. Yeah. It was on one of the shows earlier in the week. I think the most run of goals against us this year, I think it's been 3. So it shows that we've got that defensive structure, and we've got that ability now to stop the teams getting that run on. And whereas in previous, I can hear typing, someone's checking it up, I think. But it's from previous seasons where there'd be 7, 8, 9, 10 goal run-ons. We've now got that maturity and the game plan to stop that, and I think that's another key for us. Because Freo are going to come. Yep. And they're going to come hard, and we need to be able to stop that and take the game back onto our own terms.
All right, well, look, let's go on to our Big Four, which is the Big Four questions we ask at the end of each preview podcast. First one is time to stand up. Portia, I'll start with you. Whose time is it to stand up?
Well, I think we already mentioned him a fair bit, but I think it's probably Westhoff.
Yep.
Just because he's been a bit out of form, and also the way that we've talked through the game, it sounds to me like it's a Westhoff game. So let's put it all on him. Let's put the mods on him and expect him to hopefully lift and put in a good one. I guess my only other choice would have been someone like Mitchell, because really this could be his last chance at AFL, and we know he's a good sub, but he didn't really do enough to indicate he's a good long-term player, so he's going to have a really good one. Otherwise, at the end of this year, he's probably going to be back in Waffle or SANFL or VFL or something like that as a permanent thing.
Yep, fair call. Rick, what about you, mate?
I'm going for the Chad. I reckon it's time for Chad to stand up a little bit harder. We've spoken about him a few times, and he just seems to be down a little bit. He's getting a harder tag these days, and I think there was an article in the paper this week about it as well. And if we are going to take that sort of game plan into it, we really need Chad to be that small crumbing player and really exert an influence. And if I can follow that up with also the comment, we need our forward defensive pressure to stand up collectively as well against Fremantle.
Oh, yeah?
Yep, that's fair. I like that. I had Westhoff down, but look, I'm going to say Travis Boak. Nothing's going to say captain more than giving Crowley a bit of a bath this week, having a 30-touch game and kicking a couple of goals. I reckon if he can do that, I reckon we'll win.
I agree.
Nice.
All right, Danger Man, Rick.
Oh, pick a player, any player? Well, I'm going to go Matthew Pavlich. He's really dominated us in the last 3 games. So I'm hoping that Alapati, coming back from his illness, is able to stand up like he did against Tom Hawkins the game before and really nullify the true champion that Pavlich is effect on the game.
Beautiful. Portia?
For them, it'd be Nat 5, I think. I think he's just far enough down the list of seniority that we can't really find a good match for him. He's the one I'm worried about, certainly.
Yep. That's fair enough. Look, I'm going to go a little bit left of centre. We all know about all their stars and our stars as well, and I think ultimately they might cancel each other out a little bit. I think it's going to be won by the foot soldiers in this one, and for me, someone that always flies under the radar for Freo is a Tendai Mzungu, so it is a little bit left of centre, but we all know that Crowley will likely go to Boak. But Mzungu is someone that normally does a very good defensive job, especially on an outside runner, so we might see him go to an Ebert or a Hartlett, possibly even Brody or maybe even Gray up forward and shut them down. Not only is he very good defensively, but he normally breaks free and gets plenty of the ball himself. He's a bloody hard tackler. He's listed at, I think, 182 centimetres, but he plays deceptively tall. I think he's third in inside 50s for Freo, nearly averages a goal a game as well. I reckon he's someone that might fly under the radar a bit and get 20 touches and maybe a couple of goals and keep one of our stars to below their best as well.
It's fair enough.
All right, key to winning. Rick.
Courage, Macca. We need to keep taking the game on, and we need to win the clearances and dominate our share of the ball and use it well. If we can have clean possession, controlled possession, and execute with our possessions, I think that's going to be the main key for us to win the game.
Nice. Love it. Portia?
For me, it's going to be our half-back line managing to slow Freo down enough that we can get numbers back and stop from scoring when they do get dominance in midfield, because it will happen at some point. And if they can get it on the fast break and we don't have anything stopping them, I mean, they're just going to keep doing that all day, and that could be a real problem for us. So I think that's the most important thing for us, the half-back line.
Beauty. For me, it's nullifying the impact that Daniel Pearce and Stephen Hill are going to have on the game. As I said earlier, they're number 1 and number 2 in the league for average inside 50s per game. I think they average about 13.5 inside 50s between them, which is quite a lot. Look, we need to stop them from winning the ball on the outside, and that might mean stopping guys like Nat Fyfe and Michael Barlow getting the ball on the inside as well. But look, if we can stop Pearson Hill from having that impact, that's going to be a massive key to us winning this one.
I don't disagree. I think that ultimately, if we can stop them from getting good possession, certainly it'll mean that they're lesser skilled midfielders will have to do it, and that'll give us certainly playing to our strength. People like Broadbent and Pittard and Homch just sort of picking off the stray entries. But that's certainly going to be a challenge to do.
Absolutely. All right, prediction time. Portia. Who's going to win?
Look, I'm going to say Port, but I reckon if we win, it might be about 7 points.
Okay. I like that. That's confident. Kind of.
Not really.
And what about who do you reckon's going to be in front at the end of the first quarter?
Oh gosh, I think we might. I think we probably will. I think that the momentum would go with us, but I think that Fremantle are a grinding side, and I think that they'll probably just peg us back a bit, and that's why I think we'll end at 7 points. I think it'll be pretty close all day, with maybe the most margin being about 3 or 4 goals.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Rick, what about you, mate?
Yeah, I'm going Port, and I'm going to go 21 points, and I think that will be 2 goals up at quarter time, and looking good.
All right. Well, I like that.
Of course, we'll be looking good.
Both fairly confident there. I like that. I'm going to go the other way this week. I reckon Freo are going to win by 18 points. I reckon they'll be up by about 4 goals at quarter time. We'll be able to peg them back and might even hit the front during the third quarter. But I think just their experience in what they do best is going to be a bit too strong for us this week. It'll be a good lesson for us, and we'll get them on the rebound later on in the year.
So you're tipping us to lose in the last quarter?
I'm tipping us to be behind at 3/4 time, but we might hit the front in the third quarter.
Mate, where is Tango? I can't believe I've left us starving in my holiday house. It's just very, very disturbing. Are you actually a Port supporter, Macca?
No Tango and no chair. You've got nothing, Rick, on this one.
Oh.
He's got you there.
I'll smash my table instead. Come on, where is the you guys? I feel like that we're actually mid-table 4 and 3, and Freo are 6 and 1.
Yeah, I think
we need a bit more confidence here, guys.
I think Foot Falcon might be slitting his wrists again.
True, very true.
Oh, well, at least he'll be sticking up for me this time. At least I'm a little bit optimistic.
I'm optimistic, but I just think there's a big hole that I can't see an explanation for. That's all. I would love to see it. It would be absolutely great.
I think we're a big chance to win. I really believe we're a big chance to win. I just think... I just don't think we'll do it. I have put my kahunas on the line, and I've picked Freo. Much to the derision of the Port Adelaide supporter base.
Yes. I hope they ride you hard tomorrow, Macca.
Oh dear, that's it. All right. Well, do you want to quickly go through the other games and do a bit of a tips?
Why not? Why not, indeed? And we've got the big blockbuster of Tippett and Franklin playing for the first time in the same team. The $1.9 million forward pairing, and probably at a ground which is going to be more suitable for them, ANZ Stadium, than the SCG. How do you guys reckon that's going to go, and out of Sydney and Hawthorn?
I reckon they'll kick 10 goals between them.
I reckon they'll kick 3 goals between them.
Fair enough.
3 goals.
I reckon they'll get in each other's way, won't they? I mean, they both go out there thinking I'm the big ticket player. I think that Tippett's very capable of getting in people's way. I mean, it was part of his stock in trade at the Crows for years. So, absolutely. I think that they might have a real issue with space in that forward line, having space to lead into.
But they'd do the old Hawthorn trick, wouldn't they? Play Tippett really deep and get Bunny on the forward 50 and get him pushing up to the back 50 and running in between there and then running towards the goals.
Well,
with Tippett in the side, that would allow them to do that anyway.
I know, but who are they playing against? I think they might know that trick.
Well, that's true too.
I don't know.
So
I
who are
just
you guys
reckon.
picking?
I reckon they'll have a massive one this week. Everyone's going to say, "Oh, they're going to be far too strong," and then it'll fall over after this week. I reckon.
I reckon Hawthorn will smash them.
Hawthorn will smash them.
Absolutely annihilate them.
Macca?
Swans just. I'm going to say.
Swans? I'm going Hawthorn. I'm going to have to do a stock take of our tips soon too. I haven't had them up for a while. Hope I'm still winning. Brisbane Lions versus Essendon. That's a blockbuster, that one.
Essendon.
Yeah,
Essendon?
Essendon, because they don't hate themselves.
Melbourne Bulldogs.
Yeah, I'm going Essendon.
Melbourne
Another
Bulldogs.
blockbuster.
Look, I don't know. Melbourne are world beaters now, aren't they?
No.
I'm going to say Melbourne.
Yeah, Bulldogs.
I'm going the
Bulldogs.
Dogs. Yeah, you're a good judge, Portia.
I know, right?
Yeah.
West Coast
And,
Giants.
Giants.
Oh, okay.
I don't have a
Over
reason.
Sturt.
Yeah. Oh, look, West Coast are having one of their pathetic seasons, so it's entirely possible. I'm going to go with Giants. That's my only explanation.
No, I'm going to still say West Coast at home.
Yeah, I'll go West Coast. I reckon the Giants have hit the wall.
Yeah, fair enough.
And Saints Carlton.
Who's tanking? Portia?
Look, I mean, I think that St Kilda, if you look over the club's history, they have the better record of tanking, but I think that Carlton, I think that they're just really bad, so I'm going to go St Kilda, I think.
All right.
I'm going to go
St
Kilda.
Kilda.
Carlton.
Yeah, I'm going Carlton. And I'll just quickly chuck in there before we digress to the SANFL is how good are Gold Coast starting to look now?
Yeah.
They're really starting to mature quite quickly now, aren't they?
Mm.
They are.
Oh.
They're coming on.
I'm kind of hoping that we can be the Brisbane to their Port Adelaide, which is not a great simile, but just that little bit ahead and getting the benefit from it.
I guess I think they've had a bit of a soft draw though, haven't they? They haven't really played too many tough teams, but I thought beating North Melbourne convincingly at Etihad, which was something we couldn't do, was a real eye opener for me. And they're tracking along, and any team that's got Carrie Ablett in it's always going to be around the place. And to be 5-2, they'd be over the moon, and you'd think they'll be playing finals this year.
Yep.
I've got to say I'm pretty useless at making that sort of assessment because I'm pretty subjective. Right now it seems like everyone must have a pretty easy draw because there's a lot of teams worse than Port Adelaide right now. So, I don't know. They're all awful.
Cheer the black and the white. Honour the magpies day and by night. Live that Lord.
Alright, time to preview the Maggies. We're playing Sturt. It's a top of the table clash, first versus second at Adelaide Oval. It's on Sunday at 2 p.m. We've got a 174-97 win-loss record against Sturt, although Sturt has won the last 5 matches between Sturt and Port, and also 7 of the last 8 at Adelaide Oval. So they are coming into it with pretty good form.
It's interesting to see Nathan Crackers held his spot in the side. Not back in the academy squad. I'd imagine a player of his quality probably won't be going back to the academy squad from here.
You'd
I
hope
wouldn't
not.
think so, no. Benny Newton, Paul Stewart are obviously coming back in after being dropped. And also Brendan Archie, he's back into the side as well from injury, which is good to see.
We've got a very strong side now in the SANFL, and it's looking quite rosy,
It's
isn't
looking
it?
pretty good. It is looking very good, you got to say.
Yeah.
We just
How are you feeling about our finals prospects?
well, if we don't make the finals from here, then it's going to be a bit of a disaster, I think. But I don't know. I guess it depends on who goes. I know we're not supposed to send players off to surgery and all that sort of stuff, but I guess it depends who's fit, who's in the AFL side. You would think the AFL team will make finals, so it really depends on who's going to be available, I would think.
But I mean, our team is starting to look fantastic. I mean, we spoke about Stephen Summerton on the weekend and his game, and you were there, Macca. And then, so when you put Benny Newton back into the side, Andrew Moore back into that midfield rotation, one of your favourite players, Portia, Cam O'Shea's on the wing. And where is he, Portia? Where's Cam at? What's going on there?
I have no idea. I really don't know. I wish I knew. I wish I knew why he's not playing in the senior side this week. Couldn't tell you.
Do you think he should be in the senior side this week?
I think that we can get by without him in the senior side at the moment, and I think that's probably why he's playing with the Magpies. I think he's a very good creative defender, but we've already got Pittard sort of poached his role while he wasn't there, and until Pittard has a pretty stinking game, I think that O'Shea might have to be really proving himself for the Magpies.
Yeah. I'm hoping for Jake Need to have a big game. I'd really like him to step up and maybe get a 20 disposal game and do something that, he probably hasn't done so far.
Indeed.
I guess the main question I've got about that side, what's happening with Moore? Is he going to be playing seniors sometime again soon, or what?
He seems to be the forgotten man a little bit.
Yeah.
Andrew Moore. I still think that so long as Dom's in the side, I think we'll keep seeing Andrew in the resis.
Really?
I almost think it's time myself. I reckon if Dom racks up another game like he did the last 2 weeks, they might have to make a call soon. I mean, Ken's showing that he's very loyal to his playing group and the senior players, but I think Dom's lacked a little bit for me the last couple of weeks, and Andrew's been playing very well at SANFL level, and he finished off the season well last year, and he was pretty unlucky that he hurt his shoulder, but I'd like to see him in the side. I think we need him in the side, and for our development as a football team, it would be good to see him in the side as well.
Well, what is it that Moore's not doing at SANFL level that he's stuck there?
I think it's more the players in the AFL level aren't giving him an opportunity.
I don't agree with that. I mean, we've had a huge amount of players bouncing through there the last 3 or 4 weeks, haven't we? We've had Gray and Newton and Sturt all having a go. And as a secondary midfielder, that's basically what all of them were effectively there as. I don't see that you couldn't have fit in more if he was the guy in form. So there's got to be something else. Yeah,
but Gray was selected as a forward crummer, which Andrew Moore isn't.
What about the next 2 weeks?
And Newton was selected as a clearance midfielder, I would imagine. And you got to admit that Newton's performance at SANFL level was probably a little bit stronger than Moore's performance at SANFL level. Probably justified Newton getting selected ahead of Moore, but I'd imagine it would have been a pretty close call. I guess what it shows is previous season form isn't being excessively used for selection for 2014. But I know what you're saying. But I guess who would we push out of that side for Andrew Moore to be coming in?
Kane Mitchell. Wouldn't you say that at the start?
Who would be the sub?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. Let's have a quick look.
Well, we don't even know that Mitchell will be the sub yet. So.
That's true, too.
Very true.
I don't know.
All right.
All right, Mac has had enough. He's cutting us off, Portia.
We might leave it there because this has gone a bloody long time. Good stuff.
Sorry, Macca.
All right, guys.
I thought that was one of our shorter ones, Portia.
Yeah, I know. I was running out of things to say almost.
The last one went for about 4.5 hours, so it's good. All right, well, Portia, thanks for coming back on.
No problem.
And we'll speak to you in a few weeks, no doubt.
Yeah, thanks, Portia. Enjoyed the civilised debate too.
Yes, I know. Not much name calling today. We'll have to work on that.
Yeah, we'll bring it down to the gutter next time.
And make sure you bring Tango. That'll help.
I'll try.
All right, go the power.
Go for Adelaide.
Calm the power.
Port.
Seabourn now caught. Port Adelaide are beginning to build. Foster's kick is through half forward. Knocked away by Hodges. On the run is Rowan Smith.